Good morning, everyone. Glad you're here in person. Got a great group of people as well as our participants online. Excited to get into today's content. We're going to be covering the topic of understanding and correcting common SQEP finds. So let's get into it. All right, show this the right way. Thank you. Awesome. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Allie Chong. I'm the lead content coordinator here at SupplierWiki. And leading our content today is SupplyPike's own Parker Johnson. Parker is our associate product manager. He's done extensive research and led products for our compliance team. Namely, he's worked on the OTIF radar and now the SQEP solution that we're launching here in Q2. So we're really excited to hear from him. Let's give Parker J a hand. Awesome. Next slide, we'll be covering what we're going to talk about today. So essentially, we're going to start with our findings on the most common SQEP finds. So to give you a little taste, we found that the top 5 SQEP defects account for about 83% of total finds that suppliers are seeing. So we're going to cover those finds. We're going to talk about what they mean, why they're prevalent, and then we're also going to get into how you actually fight these SQEP charges. And you'll see a lot of overlap in terms of how different barcode compliance versus label compliance, how they all interact, and you'll find some interesting findings there. Then lastly, we'll get into general questions. So we'll have a Q&A portion and hear from Parker. And then lastly, we're going to actually show you a little sneak peek of our SQEP solution that we are working on here at SupplyPike. So I'm really excited to get into that. All right, and before we get started, we have a couple FAQs. So the first one is, are you going to receive a recording of today's presentation and the slide deck? Yes, as always, SupplierWiki wants to provide everyone with the materials afterwards. However, we will be editing this video. Our wonderful designers do that. So you'll get the copy of the slide deck and the recording here in about 3 to 4 business days. So look out for that in your email. The second FAQ that we wanted to cover is Q&A. So if you're online, this is for you. Please use the Q&A tab on Zoom. I'll be on my mobile device, my phone, looking at the questions that come in. So I promise I'm paying attention. I'm just looking at your questions and teeing them up for Parker. So if the question is prevalent for what Parker's talking about, I'll go ahead and interrupt him and he can answer that question, but I'll also be saving a lot of questions for our end portion where we have the Q&A. We can go into more of a lengthy discussion. Then if you're in person, go ahead and just raise your hand. We'll call on you. I may just repeat the question back because I am closer to the mic for everyone online to hear your question, and then Parker will be able to answer that. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. But before we do, we have to introduce ourselves. We're SupplyPike. We are a Northwest Arkansas-based software company, and we create software that helps CPGs like yourselves reduce revenue loss. And we do that in a couple different ways. So today we're talking about compliance programs at Walmart. So you're probably familiar with OTIF, on time in full. It's kind of related to SQEP, which is the Supplier Quality Excellence Program. So we're going to be focusing on that today. And we do a lot of work with Walmart, but additionally, we also cover suppliers such as retailers such as Amazon, Kroger, Target, and we've got lots of other great things coming in the pipeline. So with that, I will now hand it over to Parker to go ahead and get us started.
Awesome. Thank you, Allie. Great to be here with everyone. And yeah, as you can tell, we call it SQEP, not SQEP or anything like that. We've kind of shortened over time just to make it easier on ourselves, but yeah, you guys can call it whatever you want. We go SQEP a lot here. So yeah, let's uncover what we kind of have found in our research here. So just to kind of jump into the overall problem of SQEP and why we're kind of talking about this and what it really is. It's basically just a whole new compliance program that Walmart has kind of started to phase out in different phases here. And over the current 3 phases we've seen so far, there are 63 different types of defects that are kind of sub-defect level and counting as we see more phases come out. There's 6 different ways the fines are calculated for each of these kind of defects. So a lot to kind of keep up on top of. And, overall, Walmart is trying to do this to help automate their DC processes and help just get stuff on shelves. And so that's their whole goal behind all this, is to make their process more smooth to help the customer. And they're hoping to do a lot of this with invalid or with automated tech, which at least right now we've seen a lot of invalid fines from, and they've even started to waive some of that. But the full goal is to be fully automated with all this and have cameras kind of scanning your boxes and packages and loads and pallets and all that kind of good stuff to get to a common goal of improving the supply chain process overall. But as a supplier, you guys may be looking through like how to uncover these different defects, and there's like a 200-page plus document where all this information is available, but it's kind of hard to decipher and kind of piece together when it's on page 5 versus page 150, different pieces of the puzzle of what these defects mean and how to fix them and how to go about them overall. And yeah, just as a supplier, there's an overall lack of consistency and clarity with the SQEP program. So that's kind of why we're here to help out, uncover the truth of what this truly is and how to fix it. So you can see, just kind of continue with the problem and what it takes for you guys to look through this stuff. There's a lot of screenshots here of like the documentation they give you. And you'll see as I start to click through here, it's a lot of information to kind of digest. You can see there's just a ton of information popping up on the screen here, and you don't need to take this all down right now. I'm just showing the proof that there's a lot of different stuff they're making you keep track of here and kind of keep up with overall. So yeah, just a lot to uncover with each different phase and the way that these fines are calculated for all of those overall. And just some other numbers we pulled throughout the process of kind of researching SQEP. We've noticed that in the past year, 97.5% of suppliers have received a SQEP fine that we work with. That's compared to about 89% of suppliers receiving an OTIF fine at the same time. So we are seeing that SQEP fines are more common. They may not be as large overall, but 28% of our suppliers have actually had more SQEP fines than OTIF on average. So definitely important to kind of keep track and at least have a good visibility into your SQEP fines right now to see if it's a pain point for you. And just a quick note, this is a kind of a data set including 242 suppliers, so it's a pretty good sample size there as well, and definitely worth checking out on your end to see how bad the SQEP fines are for you compared to your OTIF side of things. And lastly, like Ali said, originally the 5 kind of defects we're going to dive into today make up 83% of the fines overall. And so we're hoping to, yeah, just kind of at least provide some clarity on those 5 specifically today, because they are the biggest bulk of the problem. And then as we kind of learn more, we'll tackle the other ones too. But these are also just kind of data points pulled from research calls of tons of Walmart suppliers and just understanding their pain points and the relevancy of this topic, and kind of why we decided to really put a lot of effort into the content around SQEP today. And just to kind of show SQEP fines over time, they are trending upward over time, as we've seen. You can see kind of different colors here of when different phases are released. So the first phase kind of focused on the PO accuracy side of things, which is a lot of the ASN and overage data, and a bunch of other little things. I think there's 17 total defects in that phase. And then you can see phase 2 kind of came out, which includes pallet, load, and case compliance. And you can see over time, they've all kind of increased. And we imagine that'll continue to be the trend, as we've learned from talking with suppliers, that right now they have a lot of quality inspectors going around to the DCs and finding these defects kind of handpicked until they get the invalid or until they get the automated tech all set up to kind of do this manually or automatically. They're doing it manually. So the fines may not even be to scale for your current process too in the DCs you're at. It just kind of depends the DC that you are shipping to, and based on what these quality inspectors are looking for. But we have noticed they've kind of looked more for certain things as new phases have been released and kind of forgotten some of the older stuff for now. But once this kind of thing all comes full circle and the automated tech is ready to go, all of these kind of defects will be inspected at scale for all of your stuff going on in your processes. And yeah, just to keep that in mind as you guys investigate that. So now we can kind of dive into the top 5 SQEP defects overall here, and hopefully provide some insight to help you guys fix these if these are common ones that you guys see on your end as well. So with phase 1, the PO accuracy phase is mostly these 2 defects called ASN not downloaded and overages. You can see at a total there, they make up about $8.2 million of the $17 million sample size we have here, which is about 21% of the total fines there as well. So definitely a big chunk comes from that first phase they kind of released just on really improving data quality with the ASN related stuff, and making sure you guys are just sending the right information in to begin with. Then we kind of dive into the phase 2 stuff, which is barcode and label compliance. Specifically within the barcode compliance, we have incorrect barcode, and incorrect quantity is the most common two we've seen, totaling about 6 or 7 million there. And overall, a good portion of the percentage as well there, with incorrect quantity being the highest dollar amount on that table you can see as well. So that one's kind of been one of the most common ones that is worth fixing as well. And then lastly, label compliance, another thing called incorrect quantity. So you may be asking, well, why is there incorrect quantity for both barcode and label? And we'll kind of get into that here in a second here. But with label compliance, $2 million there out of our $17 million sample size we pulled. And that's that same kind of data set I mentioned of 242 different suppliers. And overall, yeah, that totals up to 83% of the total SQEP fines we've seen as a whole. So yeah, let's keep going. So just some general SQEP updates. We have, phase 2 and 3 charges, like I said, are predicted to kind of uptick as the technology is fully ramped up in all DCs. The automated stuff has been tested out in a few of them, but they're trying to get that to scale with all the DCs. So you never know with Walmart, and sometimes the documentation is not there to truly see how far along they are in the process of kind of getting all DCs ramped up on this. But yeah, just as you are kind of examining your own things, if you see kind of low fines now, just be prepared for it. It could go up for sure.
Parker, we do have a question. What does that technology look like when it comes to the barcode compliance phase 2 at DCs?
Yeah, I haven't been to visit a DC yet, so I would like to do that at some point. That'd be awesome to see how it truly works. But from the sounds of it, most of these boxes are getting put on like conveyor belt type things with cameras on both sides. So that's why they kind of requiring you to have labels on both sides of boxes that are, also fully compliant to their standards, because the cameras are on both sides, using 2 cameras to try and catch these defects. And yeah, still trying to figure out, I think, what that automation looks like at scale with every DC and, with all of them being different. But that's what we've heard so far, is it's kind of just cameras on different sides that are capturing all sides of your packages coming in and out to make sure that they're compliant with their standards here. And then lastly, we mentioned that there's another phase that still is not released. It's around scheduling and transportation, but it's still TBD. There was early mentions that it was going to be this quarter, but it seems like that may have slowed down now. And they haven't released any new documentation that this phase 4 is releasing anytime soon. So we're doing the research for you guys, and we'll let you know if we see anything there. But as for right now, it seems like they're on pause. I have noticed that a new app has appeared in Retailing, but there's no data loaded into it. So we'll keep an eye on that and let you guys know if anything changes there. But for now, phase 4 is on standby. But yeah, phase 2 and 3, we expect to keep kind of rising overall. But phase 1, though, we didn't mention here, it should be to scale for the most part, because it's mostly analyzing a lot of the technology and data side of your shipments. So they may not be fully charging you now, but they have all the data to do so now if they wanted to. So just keep an eye on that as well.
We did have another question about the DCs. Has the current SQEP process been applied to all DCs, or is it just a certain number of locations?
Every DC should be hitting with some sort of SQEP process. Like I mentioned, a lot of them are having just the quality inspectors. I know they're testing out the automated technology in some of them and using it. But it seems like for the ones they've been doing that in, they've been waiving a lot of the fines especially for the phase 2 stuff, because they are still fine-tuning their technology with this process. But yeah, all DCs should be receiving fines for SQEP at this point, whether it's quality inspector or automation. So you can actually see in a lot of your data, it'll tell you whether it's been inspected through automation or through inspection. Awesome. So now we can kind of dive into each of these different SQEP charges more in detail and just kind of focus in and try and help you out with each of these kind of main 5 we've mentioned to start off here. So let's go ahead and dive into ASN not downloaded. I actually don't really like the name of this defect because it's not very clear. If you're seeing this, you're like, well, what does that mean? It sounds like it just wasn't a downloadable, PDF or whatever on their end, but it really could mean a couple of different things. It could mean that the ASN was never sent, or that it failed to download on their end, or that it just was never received in general. And you did send it, but it was never received by the Walmart side of things. So really, ASN not downloaded means it was not received on a PO line or wasn't sent before the shipment arrived. That's another key point too, is that your ASN has to arrive before your shipment arrives so that they know at the DCs what to expect to receive for each of these kind of PO lines. So to kind of dive into what the charges of this look like, it's a $200 flat fee per PO for people who are DSDC and Department 38. Otherwise, just a $25 flat fee per PO for non-DSDC. And then why is this kind of prevalent overall? You want to look into the SQEP dashboard to kind of keep track of this right now. But yeah, it's just, as we've mentioned, it has a big bulk of the fines, and there are requirements to be sending ASNs on all of these POs now. So that wasn't originally a requirement, but now with with SQEP, they do require you to send ASN information on all of these POs. And it really helps you on your end to avoid fines down the line. If you send correct ASNs to the DCs and what they expect to receive, it helps Walmart on there when they're receiving stuff, and making sure you're avoiding OTIF fines on the shortage side, and also just later deductions too for not shipping in full down with that also, all that stuff. Awesome. Can dive into the next one here. Overages. So there's a lot of different definitions of overages right now, but with this case here and what Walmart's looking at with SQEP, it's just where a PO line that was shipped exceeds the quantity ordered. So if you guys ship more than was ordered, is basically the easy way to put it. It does seem like they use different data sources for what you guys might consider an overage on your end. So I think it's just important to both look at the SQEP dashboard, but you could also compare with your own DSS data or Nova data to see what was actually received or shipped based on what Walmart's saying. But yeah, SQEP, we've noticed that you may not always get a fine for an overage, even though we might think there might have been one. And part of this is because I think Walmart, has their receiving errors on their end, and they know that some of these may not be valid, so they don't always charge an overage until they can kind of clear up on their own end what they truly believe is an overage versus they misperceived with, a mixed palette of different POs. So what does the charge look like for this? It's $200 per defect and then $1 per impacted case. So if you kind of have a whole PO, you'll get a charge, per PO line, I believe, and then $1 for each case on that PO line that isn't over. So yeah, 100 cases over, you get a $100 fine plus a $200 flat fee or per that PO line. So it could be about $200 in that case. But the flat fee is probably the biggest hard hitter there when you scale it up across everything. So yeah, why is this prevalent? Kind of mentioned some of this, but yeah, receiving errors are common at Walmart. So the best advice here is just to be sure to not overship, which, sounds easy enough, but, things happen in your processes, and you just gotta, find different ways to keep track of that and make the receiving process as easy for Walmart. But we do see a lot of shortages, so I'm sure overages are, equally as common, because a lot of times these shortages and overages do kind of offset each other when you look at the data and compare DSS between PO lines on the same PO or even different POs of the same item. Tons of ways for Walmart to mess up and trip up there and cause overages that may be invalid. So this is one of the ones we consider probably most commonly invalid. If you wanted to dispute one, I would recommend this for right now is a good one to kind of start with.
We had a question about overages, which I expected because this one is very tricky. Why are there an overage charge in the SQEP program, but not a shortage charge?
So that's a great question. And the way I like to think about it is SQEP is this whole new compliance area, and OTIF covers the shortage side of things. So where you're not in full, that's where you're getting charged for that. So that's why SQEP's not going to charge you for a shortage, but rather an overage. So both of them kind of work together as two different compliance programs. One's covering the shortages and one's covering the overages. So you're probably getting double dinged on both of these. If you have a shortage and an overage, a lot of times they match up between the two different compliance programs, and yeah, you're getting hit twice there for that. So,
and just kind of an extra question on top of that. So would a shortage be the confirmation that you probably received an overage, or is there another way that you can view that in DSS or any of the other reporting tools?
Yeah, there's a couple different theories on how to kind of crack which overages line up to a shortage. It could be on the same PO, but different PO lines where there's more received on one line, but less on another one, and those numbers match up. And if you were to like take the 4 that went over on one line and add them to the 4 that was short on another one, you'd be balanced out. That's where you can see receiving errors. Otherwise, 2 whole different, POs where the same item number on both of those POs, one has an overage and one has a shortage. So it's a little bit hard to kind of decipher right now. And that's part of what we're working on at Supply Pike to uncover, how to, best find those areas where that is most common. That's hard to kind of research, one by one on your own. But yeah, it's a tough thing to look into, but it's something you can do right now if you wanted to.
So essentially, the only way you would know you received an overage is because you received a fine at this point.
Yeah, you can still look at DSS data overall and just pull your DSS data and just look for columns that had more than what was ordered, because it will show just in DS flat out where you have DSS cases received has a greater number than ordered, or the cases ordered quantity there. So that's probably the best way I'd recommend to look at it now. If you we're looking for overages, but it wasn't fined yet, because not all these do get fined that we've noticed. So you may not be receiving overages in SQEP, but you can still try and get an eye into how big of a problem it is from DSS data.
That's helpful.
Awesome.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
So isn't a shortage going to be in deduction navigator as a claim?
Yeah, that's later in the process. So the OTIF charge will come first if you're not shipping in full, and then the shortage deduction will come at the very end when Walmart thinks they don't have as much packaging from you as they think, so they're paying you less on your checks itself. So OTIF is more of just the fine for not being compliant, and that comes first. And the shortage deductions come at the end where they're just not paying you as much because they don't think you have as much product. So really getting triple ding there on the shortage. Yeah. Awesome. So now to kind of dive into some of the phase 2 stuff here, we have barcode compliance, incorrect barcode specifically in this case. And, we're just kind of digging into what it is. Barcode compliance kind of covers 3 main defect areas of wrong format, incorrect quantity, and incorrect barcode. But to focus on incorrect barcode on this slide, it has some varying definitions depending on how the issue is found. It can be found by both inspection or automation, like we talked about in the DCs, by a quality inspector or by their kind of cameras that are automated doing this process. For the inspection side, the barcodes may be present, but they don't match the OLIF or item 360 kind of format that they require you. And to get more details on that, you'll want to check out the secondary supply chains standard guide. It's some packaging guide. Sorry, we'll follow up with that same document at the end here. But that's the best place to really get all the detail of the proper formatting for these kind of barcodes. So you're making sure you're not getting fined for incorrect barcode. On the automation side, though, the correct format may be correct, but the item configuration does not match what they have online for the OLF or item 360 data that they have. And then if wrong format is identified, incorrect barcode will also be identified in all those cases as well, just because the cameras are going to get tripped up on the automated side with that going on. And so what is the charges for this? Inspection is going to be a $200 fee. So that's because they're having their quality inspectors, like real people, walk around and, look for these defects. So that's kind of like almost, I guess, maybe a commission. I don't want to promise that, but it seems like if they're doing a special admin fee for the people doing inspections, there might be incentivized to go look and find these defects. And then also $1 per impacted case. But if it's just automated, so the camera and text finding it and not an inspector, it's just $1 per case. So that's where the difference is there. So ultimately, yeah, the automation will be less fines, but probably more prevalent as they scale it up. And so, yeah, just to kind of cover, once again, why is this prevalent? As automation is implemented in all these DCs, we do expect the increase in issues with this to kind of keep rising up overall. But in the case of kind of valid disputes, you want to reference the packaging guide, like I mentioned, and there it is. That's what I'm looking for. Walmart secondary packaging guide is what I was trying to say earlier. That's how you can kind of tell if your formats or barcode was correct based on their standards and whether it might be disputable. So yeah, if it's invalid and then they're manually inspected, you'll probably get some fix-it tickets for either for automated or inspected. And you can check those fines out there to get more detail and get some pictures of these fines before they're actually official too. It's in the Fix-It Ticket app. So those are kind of 2 great places to check there.
Parker, do we have numbers on the difference between inspection and automation? I think you were kind of referring to that automation might be more costly in the long run. Have we seen any of that yet, or is that kind of just a guess based on if everything's automated, there's going to be tons of these and it will outdo the inspection, that admin fee?
Yeah, we had a question here in person on whether fines are larger overall for inspection or automation. And the hard answer right now is that we don't know because the automation is not to scale. So we haven't had much data to work with to see, how bad inspection only versus automation only fines are. But, we do know that the automation is not running in all DCs versus inspection is at least, being done to a degree in every DC, but that's also not being done for every single package possible. They're only inspecting as much as they can, I guess, in a day's work at each time. So you're not going to see as much fines from inspection overall. I know with the admin fee does help kind of raise the cost, but we do expect the automation overall to be a higher impact once that's to scale and inspecting every single case.
We had another question online. I've heard that there's an updated barcode standards that suppliers are using, but Walmart DCs are not recognizing. Have you heard anything about that?
That does sound familiar, and it kind of ties into what the SQEP dashboard says. If you log into it right now, they have been waiving fines for barcode compliance that have been automated because it sounds like these new formats are not being caught by their automated technology. So that kind of fits right in line with what you're saying there. So yeah, definitely some waiting on Walmart to make some changes there on their automated stuff, but the people who are inspecting it should know the correct barcode and shouldn't be fining you for, this new format that we're talking about here. Awesome. Yeah, I think we can dive into the next one here. Okay, I think I skipped one. No, never mind. Label compliance, incorrect quantity. So what is it? Label compliance kind of covers two main defects here: wrong format, incorrect quantity, and incorrect barcode. Incorrect quantity, though, is going to mean that there was not the correct amount of barcodes on the package. So often the issue just really boils down to, are the barcodes correct, but are they on the correct sides of the package as well? You need two kind of labels on each package now, as previously the requirement was just one. So that's kind of a new change, but yeah, really just need to have them on the correct side as well, so the cameras can catch them from the different angles that they're inspecting it and the automation side of things. So what does the charge look like for this? Once again, that same kind of $200 admin fee per item, as well as the $1 per impacted case there as well. So $200 per PO, and then the $1 per impacted case. Automation side, though, again, just $1 per impacted case. So a lot of the same stuff we said there with how the fines will scale over time, depending on which methods being used to find these SQEP fines. But overall, why we think this is prevalent, and as we keep repeating over and over, is as automation is fully implemented in every DC, we do expect an increase in these issues. And then the same kind of thing as the last slide, where valid disputes, you guys may want to just check out the secondary packaging guide to fix your problems. But if you think they're invalid, you can always review your fix-it tickets and see if you see any of these POs pop up there that you want to just assign back to Walmart and fix it to get more clarification on, or even kind of informally dispute it back to Walmart in that case. So otherwise, high rate is your way to go to kind of dispute if you think they are invalid, but they aren't, approachable and fix it. Okay, I skipped barcode compliance, incorrect quantities, my bad.
They kind of blend together.
They both looked very similar because they do cover pretty similar topics, but instead of the label, barcode is different. The label is more just the detail, but the barcode is actually the actual scannable thing on the package. And so with barcode compliance, though, covers a lot of the same stuff. You can see a lot of patterns between some of these defects we've shown in the phase 2 realm here. But with incorrect quantity, simply put, each vendor pack just needs 2 barcodes in each box on the correct side as well. Similar to the label compliance side with the incorrect quantity there. And then once again, the charges sound like a broken record, is $200 per admin fee on the inspected side, plus $1 per impacted case. The automation side, though, is once again just $1 per impacted case. And just to kind of keep repeating there, a lot of these are blended together, but they are very similar in this realm here. The automation side, you can expect more fines over time. If these fines are valid, you'll just want to kind of monitor the Walmart secondary packaging guide to make sure you are following what their barcode is supposed to look like. I believe it's called a G10 label is the correct label and barcode you're supposed to have to be on these packages. So you can kind of reference that document to see exactly what those are supposed to look like and see if you're having fines for these as well. That'll be a kind of clear indicator you need to change your barcode or label overall. But if you think they are invalid, you can always go the fix it route and just kind of see the ones that were inspected, see if they were invalid, assign back to Walmart and say, I'm reading the supplier packaging guide and these appear to be correct, but for some reason we're getting fines. Can you help provide more clarification? Or otherwise, when you sign it back to fix it, they might even go ahead and remove it. Awesome. So I think that kind of was a good intro into each of those defects. Now we can kind of help more with how to fight or, prevent these kind of SQEP charges overall and dig more into that for each of these same 5 as the previous slides. So some general just steps for success though with SQEP is, you want to first try to understand the problem itself overall as a whole. And then once you kind of understand what's going on, why you're getting fines, and what's kind of, eating away at your bottom line overall, then you can work on preventing or reducing these fines. And you're trying to just, overall fix your processes and remove these areas where Walmart can ding you for more charges out of your bottom line that you guys want back. So lastly, once you've kind of worked on preventing and reducing it, that's probably gonna be the bulk of like the saving money. You can then go to disputing too if you think you have a valid reason as to why something might be invalid from Walmart's end, and that's kind of another area to go into. So yeah, want to understand, then prevent, and then dispute as a whole. So as far as understanding goes, looking at the SQEP dashboard or scorecard and Retail Link is a great place to go. You can kind of set a cadence for this overall, but this is actually updated daily with new information. So you don't have to go daily in there to kind of analyze it, but you'll want to just at least check out the SQEP dashboard and Retail Link to kind of get an idea of the fines, at least on a monthly basis, but I recommend weekly, just to keep track of the fines and see where, pain points may be appearing. But once again, these fines aren't officially valid until about a month after the current month ends. So for example, I think we're barely still in March here, but the fines for March won't be posted until the end of April. So the fines still have time to be reviewed by Walmart and removed. So I wouldn't panic if you see big fines right away versus like some historical stuff that's already been invoiced. So just keep an eye on that overall and see, what your true fines are, and go look at months that you've already been officially fined for to see how big the problem is. But also good to monitor your current month, because those do appear to be somewhat accurate, just not always official at that point. And then, yeah, just for understanding SQEP overall too, reading that secondary supplier packaging guide is a great place to reference, just to get more details on each of these defects, what your label should look like, what your barcode should look like overall. And just, understand how Walmart is gathering this data and issuing the fines overall will better help you for success here with understanding what's going on. On the prevention side, this is going to be, like I've been saying, just kind of trying to fix these problems that you've noticed when you try to understand what these SQEP fines mean first, and now go to preventing them in the future, going to your DCs or whoever in your company is going to be best to help you with that side of things on getting labels updated and evaluating the cost, too. If the fines are small right now and it's a big change to go ahead and fix these labels and barcodes now, and you want to wait, that's totally fine. Like we said, we do expect it to scale. So you do want to evaluate the opportunity there to, fix this before the fines really take off. But, for some companies, it may be expensive to, go change your barcodes and labels on all packages and kind of change the whole process for you. So I would definitely kind of evaluate how big the fines are for you. And, it's a case-by-case basis for sure. But as far as Fix It goes, Fix It's a place where they kind of, tag phase 2 and phase 3 defects. We've kind of talked through some phase 2 ones today. There wasn't any prevalent phase 3 one to cover today, but those both do show up in Fix It. So Fix It's a great place to kind of get more clarification. They do in Fix It want you to submit corrective action plans as to how you're going to go about fixing these defects. But right now, it seems like there's no incentive to actually do that, but you can do it as proof that you are fixing these problems. And it might look good in a buyer review situation where you are working on, improving these things that help Walmart supply chain overall when you're talking to your buyer. But yeah, with Fix-It, it's a good place to kind of look and get more detail on some of these defects. And you can also always assign back those tickets in Fix-It back to Walmart to get more clarification on those. So just some general advice for Fix-It. Just, asking very specific questions to avoid receiving the wrong answer from people reviewing these tickets. They're people reviewing these tickets across all their suppliers, and, they're very busy and they're trying to clear them out as fast as possible. So you want to have like very clear and targeted messages when you assign it to Walmart, but it's another place to kind of just get good clarification on what went wrong or why you're getting a fine, or if you just really have no idea like what's wrong with your label, they can help point that out. And then also just kind of learning how to understand Walmart's copy paste responses. They do use a lot of templates when responding to these questions. So you want to almost just try and beat the response system they're kind of automating back to you in a way. It's not fully automated. It's a person, copying a response that they've used in the past and just pasting in the chat. So asking good questions will help kind of continue the conversation where you get a real answer as to what's going on versus just the kind of quick respond to a ticket as fast as I can and clear it out kind of answer. And then lastly, just keep it to one question per SQEP charge for best results. You don't want to overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. Yeah, to get best, advice and help and fix it itself. On the disputing side, we've kind of mentioned that you can use Fix-It to assign it back. And sometimes when you sign it back, Walmart will notice that something was actually invalid and they'll just remove the ticket and sometimes go in and remove the fines from the SQEP dashboard too. So you want to kind of monitor the fines you're going after and Fix-It, the tickets you're going after and Fix-It, because the fines could get removed, but they don't have very clear documentation on like when a ticket's removed, what does it look like on your end with the actual fines in the SQEP dashboard. But as far as disputing no two, you always have the option of disputing through high radius. So they have some set kind of columns here they want you to include on every high radius dispute that we have seen. But high radius disputes are reviewed on a monthly level. So each month of fines is invoiced at that monthly level overall. So you want to dispute a full month of fines all at once. So you want to get all your documentation kind of pulled together for really anything you're going to go after. You can always dispute once and then kind of take a break, wait for that to get approved or denied, and then dispute again on a different issue. But you can't do multiple at a time. They will reject disputes in high radius if you have two at a time on the same invoice number. But so, yeah, for a full month, you'll want to kind of have a game plan of how you want to go after it and the different defects in your kind of Excel file you're creating here. But in that Excel file, they want you to have the PO number, the item number, the defect type, the DC number, and the number of impacted cases for that defect that they're kind of investigating there and sending back to Walmart. There's also really room for you to add kind of any additional data you think might be relevant. You can add shipping docs, pictures, whatever you want, additional columns you think might prove that something is correct. In high radius, they don't love extra evidence. They don't always accept BOLs and PODs and that kind of stuff, but it doesn't hurt to try. I think, anything goes with trying to earn money back for yourself. But overall, yeah, it can be a tough journey to kind of navigate high radius and dispute these claims. So always make sure to have these at least kind of set columns. Otherwise, you might get like an automatic rejection from high radius saying we need these columns to go proceed forward. So yeah, like we kind of mentioned, the SQEP invoicing schedule, very similar to OTIF, but on the 21st of the month, the prior month's data does lock. So like right now we are in March, so April 21st hypothetically would be the date that the data would lock for March SQEP fines. And then the 22nd to the 27th is kind of Walmart's review period to make sure they're good to go before they send them out. And then usually the 28th of the month is their billing date for when these fines actually process out. So we're on March 29th, I believe, today. OTIF fines and SQEP fines were supposed to go out yesterday. I think they maybe didn't, and there was a delay there, but typically the 28th is your kind of date to go. And the invoice that would have been sent out yesterday would be actually February's official fines, not March's. So something to keep in mind there as well. And then the amounts they're due are just really deducted from your next outgoing payment from Walmart. So they'll just take it off anything that whatever is next in line to be paid to you is where these kind of fines are deducted for both OTIF and SQEP. So you just want to keep an eye on like where you're going to be deducted for that stuff. And then they will go ahead and pay you back if you did win a dispute on the same next payment from Walmart. Awesome. And so this is just kind of an overview of the whole SQEP disputing workflow and, just understanding your SQEP fines in general. You'll want to just start with reviewing your SQEP scorecard for projected fines. You have phase one. You kind of want to review only the SQEP dashboard and the chargeback summary page. Phase one is only going to be in the SQEP dashboard, but phase two and phase three will be in FIXIT and SQEP dashboard, so you can review both in both those places. We don't have an idea of where phase four is going to live yet. It might be its full-on app. Like I mentioned, I've seen at least a separate FIXIT portal for phase four separately, but still more information to kind of come there. And just in doing so, you want to kind of have a validity check on your end as to why you think these may be valid or invalid and how you can fix them versus dispute them. So just reviewing different proof documentation on your end, communicating with other teams, asking, why are our packages getting damaged, or why is our pallets low quality? Can we do something to fix this? Or are we loading into the trucks the proper way? Overall, just kind of using the data to kind of figure out areas where you can make quick fixes that are easy in your processes. And so if it's valid, yeah, it sucks. It's probably coming out of some of your budgets that you may be joining us on the call today. But you definitely want to work on preventing and reducing. That's going to be the biggest, money saver overall. Because with a lot of these charges, it seems like once you fix it, it should be good to go, at least until Walmart updates their requirements again for like a new barcode or new label requirement. But a lot of the phase one stuff does seem like really repetitive and kind of keep continuing over time with the ASN stuff and the overage stuff. But the phase two and phase three stuff, if you fix it, in most cases, it should be good. It just depends, as people come into your company and you're working your own ship plans and stuff. Some people may not be up to speed with the requirements here. So really having probably proper training up the line and that type of stuff to make sure once you fix the stuff, they don't kind of keep popping up. But you have time to fix this stuff before it really scales and is fully automated and really inspected to a true degree. So, time to work on it for sure. And Walmart's still learning as well. They've had their own problems and have waived fines. So no need to panic yet. But if you are receiving hefty SQEP fines, there are tons of ways to, look into reducing, preventing, and also disputing. And yeah, on the invalid side, we've mentioned organizing user proof. Those same kind of four main columns that they mentioned on the last screen. As well as just, other dispute evidence you might want to submit to HighRadius or FIXIT when you're kind of talking to people in FIXIT versus HighRadius. Maybe different methods there, because FIXIT is going to just request you to send a comment in. You don't have to send exactly proof yet until the conversation kind of continues from there. So you just want to get that first question teed off in a response from Walmart's end. But disputing, they're going to always require their kind of Excel file to format it in a retail link looking like way that's kind of nice for them to review and work through easily, basically. And then, yeah, lastly, at the end of the day, prevention is definitely the biggest helper. So just kind of saving documentation on this, reviewing your problems, sharing learnings across your teams, and yeah, just working with your whole crew to kind of figure out these problems overall. So now I think we can dive into some more prevention and disputing stuff. Specific to each of these kind of defects. So with ASN not downloaded, we have seen some, people talk about different ways to add other columns for proof as to why you think these might be invalid. So along with those kind of same 5 columns, as far as disputing goes, you'll want to include some of these other stuff. If you have the information, you can get a lot of this from the ASN dashboard. And that is like the EDI 997 accepted acknowledgement. Any BSN information, any ASN receipt information, carrier signed VOLs or, other shipment confirmations, you can kind of really easily put into an Excel format. So it's not like attaching each VOL, but more of just like a way to really make it easy for Walmart to review overall as a whole. But on the prevention side, it's really as simple as just make sure you're sending ASNs before a shipment arrives at the Walmart DC. So a good rule of thumb here is, as like a truck is leaving your own ship point, send the ASN so it's there electronically transferred before the truck arrives at the DC and it's received. And that's how you'll avoid a lot of these ASN not downloaded. But yeah, if you're not sending them at all, you will receive fines, or if you're sending it after the truck is already arriving, you'll probably receive fines there as well, so. With overages, this one has seemed to be the most disputable and most likely invalid, so it's one I would recommend kind of looking into on your end to see how bad the fines are with you. But some different ways that Walmart suppliers have helped, help the receiving process work out better. If you are kind of mixing different POs all in a pallet or kind of shipping together, some people use like different colored stickers and even like logos or items on the packages itself so that people receiving it know that these boxes go together versus these ones. So like some people use like a blue elephant on all the boxes that relate to this certain PO versus a yellow giraffe on the box sticker that says these all belong together. And like that's just a way for like someone receiving it to be like, okay, I have a clear like indicator on my box to know that these POs have these items and these POs have these items, and to overall help the receiving process and the PO lines within those POs. So that's just a kind of a simple tip, but it's really up to your business too if you want to go and work on getting stickers and adding that to your process. But that's one way we've heard people kind of tackle that. That's a kind of a fun answer. But yeah, overall, you just want to also try and confirm that your fulfillment information is correctly flowing to the warehouse. So checking on your EDI there. Also just checking that your items are set up correctly in Nova and are ordered and received properly. That the forecast you have set for yourself is good. And just that, yeah, overall, it's as simple as not sending too many of the same case. If you don't send too many of the same case, a lot of times these fines will be invalidated if you guys are making sure you've got your overage situation down with like how you're sending and receiving and how you're sending and how they're receiving the packages. But yeah, with disputing though, definitely recommend submitting a high radius. We've seen a lot of people we've talked to have success, going after these overages in high radius. So like we've mentioned with the DSS data, look for PO lines on the same PO that match with a shortage and overage, or different POs with the same item number that have like the same offsetting overage and shortage when you kind of compare the DSS received versus what was ordered. And then, yeah, if this is also correct, you can also talk to your buyer to dispute this, and they can confirm that these are invalid or valid, and even give you some additional, power when you go to high radius saying, oh, our buyer confirmed these were invalid, please pay back.
We had a question about overages. This seems to be the hot topic today. So with overages, you're fighting those on more of the compliance side. Can you take that information and go dispute it on the deduction side as well, or vice versa, disputing a shortage and then pulling that information over to high radius and disputing the overage?
Yeah, a decent, rule of thumb here too is if you are receiving overages in SQEP, Walmart still has that, what they claim to have received as an overage. So you can go ahead and try and invoice, for the cases that they say you went over. And if they don't pay you for those cases that they said went over, then that would be an indicator that this might be an invalid fine then. So if they're not paying you for the goods you're sending, if you are sending more goods, they at least owe you for those goods. So you don't necessarily receive a deduction, but in some ways though, you do want to at least get paid if you are sending an over shipment there versus validating whether it's valid or not. And if it's invalid, you can dispute it. So that's kind of the route I'd recommend there. But yeah, as far as the disputing process in high radius, like we mentioned, yeah, just using the data from DSS in your file to say, these match up offsetting, this should be an overage, and they have a query on their own end that they are already currently running for the OTIF side of things to match up overages and shortages. So they should be able to do the same for SQEP. So it's just worth, submitting some overage charges to high radius to test it out and see how it goes. So yeah, diving into some of the phase 2 stuff now, this includes, barcode compliance for incorrect barcode and incorrect quantity, and also the label compliance for incorrect quantity, kind of, bunching all these three together because they are really similar in how you want to prevent and dispute them. But Walmart does require, 2 properly formatted labels and barcodes on each kind of case or carton. And at least one placed on the longest side of the package, but usually they will kind of want them on, a square here. You want one on one side that's facing, the long way, and one on the short side. So they have a camera looking at both ways on that package itself. They have required details on what that G10 barcode is supposed to look like, what the item number is supposed to look like, what the stock number is supposed to look like, and how the label is supposed to be formatted. Once again, that's in that Walmart secondary supply chain packaging guide. And then you also just want to check item 360 to make sure your barcodes are up to date there. I think that's where you actually submit them in the first place. So I want to make sure they're all properly formatted there. And, you can look at certain POs or items that may have not been updated versus other ones that have, just to make sure you're fully aligned there. But yeah, with disputing again, once again, this is where we recommend even just sending it back and assigning it to Walmart and fix it, the ticket itself, just to get more clarification. Because we haven't seen Walmart just remove tickets altogether. If you think your labels look good and you don't have a reason to be getting fined for this, always totally valid to kind of return to fix it there and at least try and get more clarification on these fines before they're officially invoiced, because tickets will kind of populate, automatically right away when they are identified for the most part. And they do disappear, it seems, over time too. I think you can expand your date range, but like the way the fix it works, it's kind of hard to navigate that. So overall, yeah, that 30 to 60 day window of when these are incurred and then officially invoiced, a month after the month ends, just want to keep an eye on that and fix it and try and go at it there. But if they do become valid fines and are officially invoiced, you can still go to HighRadius and try and attach any documentation. There's not really a formal process of what to include on these disputes yet, but really anything that you think might be relevant to you with how to dispute these, phase 2 defects, it works for you. Just you got to include those 5 main columns we talked about earlier, which is like PO number, item number, the defect type, the number of cases, and DC number is what they kind of all recommend there. Awesome. And just to kind of get a quick preview of what HighRadius looks like if you haven't logged in there and what these fines look like. HighRadius can be a little tedious to kind of work through and find these disputes, but there's both an open and closed bills tab, so you want to check there. There's also a column in this HighRadius kind of portal called like doc type description. You'll want to just like type SQEP space I and V. That's very specific, but they are like very tedious on what you're supposed to type there. So I'll repeat that again. There's a column called doc type description. If you're looking for if you want to filter to only SQEP fines, you're just going to type SQEP space I and V, and that'll pull up the SQEP invoices you received from HighRadius or Walmart in HighRadius. And that's just the best way to find them. They're also not very clearly labeled, but they do mention the month they belong to in some other columns that you'll just kind of have to scroll through HighRadius and try and find that if you are going to dispute in there. So once again, it's a little bit tedious to figure out, but once you do find it, you can dispute in both the open or closed bills tab. And then the stuff you have to fill out in HighRadius is a dispute reason, the amount you're wanting to dispute, any additional comments if applicable, and then also the attachment for relevant documents. And that's where you'll upload your Excel file we've mentioned with those kind of 5 main columns that they request. And so the dispute reason should always be incorrect billing. There's like 10 options or so in this little drop down right here that we kind of have on the screen. But what we've used for all of our OTIF disputes and what they kind of recommend is you always use incorrect billing as your dispute reason there. Otherwise, your amount can be really any custom amount that's less or equal to the total fine invoice for that SQEP fine. So if you're only going after a certain portion, you do want to make sure that the amount to be disputed matches what you have in your Excel file for the total fines. The comment is a character limit of like 250. So it's not very long to kind of get your point across, but you do at least want to provide a quick kind of short summary of why you're disputing these fines and what you're going after here for HighRadius in. And then, yeah, that upload button is where you attach the Excel file like we mentioned. So we will send the slides out so you can get more information on this whole process, but that's hopefully a good kind of quick intro into HighRadius and how that works. And then lastly, when you submit a dispute, it will go to this new disputes tab. So that's where you have to track it. Once again, I think you can filter the same way and trying to find that doc type description column and type in SQEP space I and V. And that's how you'll look for the specific SQEP invoices you disputed. Otherwise, if you haven't disputed a ton, it'll just be in there hanging out. And you can always follow up and edit disputes, but if HighRadius has already kind of started working on one, it may not get seen the edits you make. So definitely just make sure you have all your stuff good to go from the beginning. Is my recommendation. And once again, these are all redisputable. So if you do fail the first time, sometimes they provide more clarification as to what you may need on these disputes overall. And you can go at it a second time without any penalty. And then, yeah, just a reminder, we kind of mentioned that the fines are stacking here, where you might be hit in 3 different places for this. But yeah, there's kind of 3 different areas where, you may be receiving some charges against you. So there's the deduction side where you're just getting paid less on the goods you have sent in due to any kind of deduction that kind of beyond the whole compliance realm itself. But the shortage stuff does get included in that from the OTIF side of things of being not in full. And then, of course, we talked about today of SQEP and how the overages and shortages can offset. So you could be getting hit in 3 different ways there on deduction, SQEP, and OTIF overall. So yeah, just tough as a supplier getting triple dipped on there by the retailers in general.
Mhm.
And yeah, each of these compliance fines also must be addressed independently of each other. So the OTIF fines are a separate dispute in high radius, or you're trying to reduce and prevent it separately from the other things. SQEPt is also its own thing in high radius versus reducing and preventing it. And then deductions is a whole new world of disputing an APDP, a different even portal itself on that type of stuff. Awesome. So yeah, here's some kind of helpful contact and help links and retail link, places to get more information on SQEP overall, when you're kind of digging around in the dashboard or just, the Supplier Academy area, just to try and learn more about it and figure out what's going on with you, the fines you're receiving, and how to best kind of fix those stuff. So these are just some different routes you can go in retailing by clicking, the Academy and following this whole process here. These slides will obviously be sent out so you can kind of follow along with that at the end here. But yeah, different ways to view both the SQEP dashboard, fix it inspection, quick reference guide, which has some more details. And this is also a place where they actually have some more detailed descriptions on the phase 2 and phase 3 defects. So if you've looked at like the original SQEP documentation, you may have not been satisfied with their definitions, but we've actually were able to get some more detail, for today's presentation too, from the Fix It Inspections Quick Reference Guide too as well on those defects. So they have a little better understanding and clarification on some of those defects with a longer description. You can also get SQEP support there with that link there as well. Reach out to the EDI help desk for ASN support. You can call that number there. Kind of follow those same type of routes. They're all in Retail Link. These are all just kind of guides to navigate Retail Link itself for more details.
Awesome. So we are to the end of the content. Thank you so much, Parker, for walking through all of that. I'm excited to get into questions. Before we do that, we did want to call out the SQEP resources we have behind us. I know that I've been sending a couple of those in the chat, and my team has been sending those as well. The SQEP handbook really just covers, it's the handbook to SQEP, and we're going to be updating that once we get phase 4 in there. Additionally, we have lots of webinars deep diving on the different phases if you want to get more into the defects that are underneath those. And then another great in-person event that we had with one of our customers, Ken. He might be on the call today. He usually attends our SQEP content. He actually came in person and walked us through more of the fix it and prevention side. So I would be sure to check any of these out if you have more questions, but of course you can always just reach out and contact us. We can go to the next slide. Perfect. Well, we've got a lot in the Q&A that I've been saving for the end, but I do want to open it up to anyone in person if you guys have questions for this time. All right, I've got lots online, so we'll get into those. First one we can start with is center points. So if you're not familiar with what a center point is in the Walmart distribution network, it's a third-party consolidation center. And this question is asking about center points and how the bulk of their freight goes through those center points. And they're seeing a lot of shortages and overages occur in that. Have you heard anything specific about center points and how you can fight those SQEP fines? Yeah,
the center points are difficult. We see a lot of receiving errors out of those too, both with overages and shortages. So definitely understand your pain there a little bit. It's definitely tough to navigate, but we definitely recommend, if you can avoid mixing pallets of different POs and stuff, as best you can. That'll help where receiving goes. Otherwise, we mentioned kind of a sticker idea of like labeling each case with like an indicator of these go together versus these go together. But that's where we see a lot of, receiving errors occur. So it can be hard to navigate. As far as disputing anything special there specifically, I would say no, but because receiving errors are common, I definitely recommend going after those disputes though in those cases and looking for errors there. There's really not much else extra to do though, specifically on a dispute for that. Just, understanding that those are common at those places. So just like kind of review the data on your own end and try and dispute it as best you can with the information you have.
Thanks for that. This question kind of is lamenting about the SQEP reports being vague and only providing high level details. We've talked a little bit about SQEPt, which provides photos and gives a little bit more clarity. We've talked about DSS and how you can pull overage data. We've talked about the SQEP dashboard and the details that it does provide. Are there any other sources that suppliers could use for understanding why they may receive a fine, doing a validity check, and actually disputing?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. The SQEP dashboard is the main one, but obviously, like you said, doesn't go a ton into detail. SQEPt sometimes has more detail and more pictures, better pictures. We've noticed the SQEP dashboard does have pictures, but a lot of times they're maybe black and white and upside down, so they're hard to kind of decipher what's going on. Versus SQEPt is usually typically always in color. But sometimes those are always upside down too, which can be hard. But people have mentioned stuff like Nova, Item 360, DSS as all other sources to kind of validate, where things are going wrong for specific defects and how to kind of navigate those charges. And was there a second part to that I'm missing here too on answering?
No, it's more just saying there are a lot of resources in Retail Link. Are there any additional ones when it comes to disputing, validity checks, prevention? Yeah,
documentation is tough with Walmart. It seems like some of them are just so hidden that you will never find them. Like the Fix It Quick Reference Guide, it can be found at the bottom of the original SQEP, just overall SQEP overview by Walmart and Retail Link. So if you scroll to the bottom of if you just kind of pull up the SQEP handbook that they have and kind of in Retail Link, there's some more links at the bottom there to kind of go investigate that might be helpful to look into if you haven't seen them before. But like we said, a lot of these defects do have information in them in that kind of Walmart packaging guide. While it is a huge document and very spread out, control Fing and looking around there might be a good place to start too, to see how to fix a certain problem. But overall, yeah, the resources are light, and I think they kept it vague at the start because they didn't even know what they wanted to do with a lot of these stuff yet. So just keep an eye out and see if there's more documentation. They have update dates on all those documentations too when they were last updated, so you can see if anything's changed recently. Tough to keep track of though, but if the fines are hurting you enough, it's worth looking into.
For sure. This is another question a little bit on using Retail Link for proof documentation. We're monitoring receipts on Retail Link through Scheduler 2.0, and they all match, but they continue to receive overages. Have you seen a scenario like this, and do you have any best practices?
Yeah, that's a good question. Definitely a good place to monitor that overall. And a lot of times, what we see on our end is what you guys say you ship as suppliers through the ASN does not always match what Walmart receives. So you guys may be doing everything right on your own end as far as what you're saying you're shipping, everything looks good to you. But then you're receiving fines still. It's probably just due to receiving error on Walmart's end. Now, in the case where the receiving numbers look good, you're still receiving fines, that seems a little weird, and that definitely seems invalid. So if that's ever the case and that the receiving numbers match what you guys said you shipped, you shouldn't be receiving fines at all. So that's like a clear indicator to dispute that case for sure, or at least get more clarification from Walmart or your buyer or anyone. But yeah, typically though, what we use on our end is ASN numbers a lot. And even though you guys said you shipped something, Walmart could misreceive it on their end, causing that discrepancy there and causing the fine itself.
Okay, that's helpful. I have another question. We didn't really go into disputing on Fixit, but do you have any best practices when it comes to using the Fixit portal to dispute before they hit in high radius?
Yeah, typically Fixit's gonna be filtered to the last 30 days. I think you can expand to 60 as a quick option and then do a custom date filter if you want beyond that. But with each of those tickets, it's just as simple as opening it up. So they don't look very clickable, but on each ticket, you can just like double click on it and it'll open a new page of more details on that ticket. And in the top right of those tickets will be like an assign to button. And that's kind of how you'll go to Walmart and ask more clarification on that. There is a corrective action plan button too. So, differentiate between the two, because the one button for corrective action plans is asking you to submit a plan as to why or as to how you're going to fix this in the future. There's no incentive to really do that, but you might want to go ahead and do that just as far as buyer reviews go, if you can kind of solve problems and explain why a defect happened and how you're going to fix it. But yeah, assigning it to Walmart is the way to kind of dispute it informally through Fixit. So it's not really a documented process on how disputing works, but we had some people have success kind of assigning it back to Walmart and then the ticket disappears from there.
And when it disappears, it means that it's probably not going to be hit, or have you seen Fixit tickets that disappear come back to haunt suppliers on high radius?
Yeah, that's a good question. There hasn't been enough data for us to look at to validate whether that happens or not. Our guess is that they remove a ticket before the fines are officially invoiced. They're going to go and remove those fines. So I would just keep track of the PO number on those tickets that you're disputing to, probably in a separate file on your own, to make sure you're tracking it to see if the fines do eventually hit for those if they're deleting them. But it seems like they should be taking the fines out if the fixed ticket is kind of deleted and removed there. But you never know with Walmart.
Very true. We'll end here with this last more rhetorical question about there being so many programs. Why are there so many programs being used for investigations rather than just all in one? I think, Parker, you might share this sentiment. We agree. I think that's really frustrating. We talked to a lot of suppliers and we feel for you having to toggle between Fixit, DSS, SQEP dashboard, high radius. I'm probably missing 4 or 5 other ones in there, but
yeah, it's a painful process being a supplier for sure, with all the requirements they have for you guys. And it always seems like there's something new popped up on your radar too that you have to look into as well. Like there's the collect pickup program and other stuff like that just constantly popping up. So it's tough, and that's kind of why we're here to help investigate and navigate that for you guys. But yeah, overall, I don't have any reasons to why to keep it all separate, as to more of just making it as difficult as possible. And I guess different teams with Walmart being so big that they don't communicate well enough between blending all this stuff together when you combine the whole deductions versus OTIF versus SQEP picture together, and all the little pieces that fall into those categories.
yeah. Well, thank you, Parker, for answering all these questions. Thank you for everyone for submitting questions. If you're in person, we'll have some time afterwards. You can come up and talk to Parker or any of us. But if you are online, you can email us if you have additional questions, if you have questions about other content that you'd like to see around SQEP, if you want to ask Parker some more deep questions about SQEP, or get connected to the product that we're working on for SQEP. We'll demo that here in a second, but essentially, if you need to find us, here are our emails. We'll respond back to you, or you can find us at supplypike.com. Awesome. And with that, we'll go ahead and get into the SQEP solution product preview. Again, if you're online and you need to head out, this is kind of an extra bonus part, so we totally understand, same for in person, but this is just a really quick preview into the product that we're launching here in Q2. So Parker, I'll let you take it away from there.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we have our kind of SupplyPike SQEP prototype here. This is all just kind of a design prototype, so not real data, a lot of dummy data, just a placeholder for now. But we are actively working on a solution for this and kind of our vision of what we want to accomplish with our solutions as far as helping you guys, navigate SQEP overall. Just kind of starting off with a general dashboard here to get an overview of like the pain points and the overall fines. We want to give you some high level numbers like the number of PO lines ordered. And this actually goes beyond what you may see in our OTIF app. because it includes, people who are direct import, which OTIF does not include. So the PO lines could be greater than what you might see on the OTIF side of things. That is, relevant to that kind of calculation there. But we also wanted to show something like the total inspected amount, just so you know, of your total PO lines, how many of those are actually being inspected. And then of those that have been inspected and ordered itself, how many of those actually incur defects just at a high level. So this would be based on like the certain filter you're applied to. So it could be a month, could be, up to probably a year. And then just those total defect charges for those, what has been actually had a defect and inspected out of the total ordered.
Now, Parker, before you go on, we do see this a lot when we demo or show parts of our product, SupplyPike. So this is not available on Retail Link. This is SupplyPike's product, but we are pulling data from Retail Link. Could you talk a little bit about some of the sources that you're pulling from?
Yeah, it's a great question. So with the SQEP data we have here, that's all. A lot of it's coming from the SQEP dashboard, but just kind of reorganized into a way that helps you guys clearly understand the problem. We're also looking into different ways to pull from high radius, which we already do on our OTIF side of things, the fix-it side of things as well. There's relevant ASN and DSS data we already use on our OTIF side being pulled in as well to kind of match up with these kind of POs that you may see on the SQEP side of things to kind of navigate the overage side of thing. And yeah, there's a lot of different data sources that we would be open to, pulling into if there was a reason. Our OTIF side of things, we blend 7 different sources together. And so the SQEP can do a lot of the same as far as compliance goes. So yeah, just our kind of vision of the dashboard here. We have these 4 main categories, and this is how Walmart and Retail Link breaks it down, is these 4 kind of groupings. The PO accuracy stuff was, like we mentioned, was a lot of phase 1 information, versus the other 3 kind of all fall. These 2 fell within the phase 2 and load compliance in phase 3. As far as how these have been issued out over time. We just wanted to give you a charge summary of each kind of main grouping to kind of tackle where your biggest finds are, and dig into the detail on each of those. And then below, based on what we're filtered to on the date filter, would be kind of more of a detailed summary at a high level still of like what these finds look like. So you could see the total defects per million, which isn't exactly clarified as to why it's relevant yet. Our guess is that it's going to be used to kind of hold you guys to a standard similar to the 98% score in OTIF. So we still went ahead and incorporated it. But what you really want to look at is the number of defects you're getting on the inspected lines here, or whatever is being inspected in these cases. So the PO accuracy stuff inspects lines, case compliance inspects different cases, pallet compliance inspects pallets, and load compliance inspects loads of actual trucks. So different ways the data is kind of organized and maintained overall. And so what our goal here is to give you kind of overall summary of each kind of category, and then a drop down of some different like defect level, more specific answers as to what was exactly going on. And then once we get into more of a defects page to kind of dig into the specific sub defects that relate to each of these defects overall. But with that being said, you can go ahead and kind of click on these charges to go to a defects page to get more detail. So once again, we'll give you some summary over the top for whatever your time period is selected here, of those kind of overall finds, different tabs to kind of filter between those different areas that Walmart currently organizes the data. And then lastly, the most kind of probably valuable thing is going to be the defects details page here. So within each PO, you would just click on a PO and get your full defect summary. Because a PO can have multiple defects, we're going to kind of incorporate those all into one to get one view at each PO and what the problems are arising on each of those. With the intention and hope that we would have, SupplierWiki content explaining each of these defects in details to get more information on them to kind of help kind of reduce and prevent. I tried to combine those words there with more information on those defects itself. Really any other relevant PO details, ASN information, as well as those images from Retail Link as well. You can see we have these pictures actually upright and in color. So we're pulling the pictures in from Fixit or from OTIF, or not from OTIF, from SQEP dashboard. And a way to kind of cycle through all the photos that are relevant to this PO. A rotate button if they do get it to you upside down, because they do that a lot. And different ways to kind of analyze what went wrong here. these are some stock images, not exactly representative of what you might see in your side of things, but yeah, that's kind of part of it. More of that same fix a ticket information, just to get more details on what that looks like, and some extra details that may provide. And once again, a lot of this is just dummy filler data for right now, so I wouldn't take all of it too seriously, but just as the general workflow we have building on our end, and just a way to kind of filter between the different PO lines under these different categories as well to get more information on each of those. And that really is kind of a quick overview of what we're working on. You know, we'll keep you guys updated as more details are to come. And if you guys want to participate in like early access of kind of getting a preview of this and working with your own true data to see it yourself, we're happy to kind of talk to you guys about that. But otherwise, that's really the main gist of it. You know, other stuff coming in the future would be something like we're working on disputing for future quarters, but for right now, we just want to focus on visibility and preventing or reducing these fines in the first place, and then work on disputing after that.
When would disputing in the SQEP platform that we're building currently, when would you forecast that would be launched and ready for suppliers to use? Because I know that's what most people are wanting to do.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. We can kind of jump to the roadmap that we have in our slides here. Hopefully that worked. Yeah. So here's kind of our current roadmap for right now of what we are planning to release. So you can see Q2 coming up right now, basically in a few days. Our goal is by mid Q2 to release this kind of visibility functionality. Maybe closer to later Q2, but that's going to, you know, focus on the root causing of these problems, reducing, preventing, fixing the issues itself. That's where a lot of the bulk of the fines we think can be, you know, improved overall. And then disputing will be hopefully sometime in Q3 as we kind of get more user feedback, you know, send some test disputes in and also get more feedback on the current disputes that have already been submitted. And then just talking with customers too, who've already disputed in the past as well, because we have a lot of those as well that have done that, especially on the overage side. So, yeah.
And could you give us a little look at what that disputing would look like? So whether the people online or in person today are current customers or not, what will the disputing function look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. So currently we dispute the high radius through our OTIF app. So it'd be very similar to that here. So if we skip ahead a little bit, we kind of have a helpful little GIF here of just how simple the process is, but it's as simple as kind of checking the POs you want to dispute and hitting that dispute POs button. As far as our OTIF side of things go, and we're going to try and build the exact same kind of model for how we dispute the high radius, collect the columns for you, and really build the proof out for you so you don't have to go to the tedious work creating Excel files to dispute those fines.
Awesome. I'm excited to see that. I know you and your team are working really hard to get that done.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to, you know, hopefully helping a lot of suppliers out with a lot of these solutions and, you know, getting to a place where we feel comfortable to help you guys, you know, resolve these issues for sure. And yeah, get some money back too while we're at it. But yeah, just kind of overview again, SupplyPike's current solution plans, you know, viewing 4 sources of relevant SQEP data all in one place, spotting trends and getting the root cause of the SQEP issues quick and easy, you know, in-app explanations for all these kind of different defect types to really understand at the sub-defect level what it is, why you're getting it, and how to fix it, and what the details you need to go about fix those. And then eventually, yeah, some automation too for retail links, fix it portal too as well, and the ability to kind of dispute from our app into retail links, fix it as well, would be part of our goals too.
Awesome. And just to close us out, if I'm a supplier and I'm interested in getting into the early access program, how would you like to be contacted or your team?
If you're a current customer, you can reach out to any of our kind of account managers or CSMs that you work with. Otherwise, if you're kind of never worked with us before, you know, happy to just kind of help get your data connected and reach out to our sales team in general, or you're really anyone, any email at SupplyPike works and we'll point you to the right place. So yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can go back. We'll go back to our emails and we'll kind of close there. If you are interested or have questions about today's content, these are our emails. So please feel free to reach out. Parker, thank you again for walking through all of the content and the SQEP prototype that we've just looked at. And thank you to everyone who joined online and in person. We're happy that you were able to come and talk about SQEP. So everyone have a great rest of it's Wednesday, correct? Okay, thank you. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we hope to see you at another event. Take care.